Hey, Steve Mignon here doing the Junkyard Crawl, and because today is Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, April 13th, 14th, or 15th, I'm actually going to be in Florida at the Barrett-Jackson West Palm Beach collector car auction. So in the meantime, be sure to enjoy this three-part video series on my altered wheelbase funny car models. But we'll be back on Sunday, April 16th, with more Junkyard Crawl. See you then. Hey, Steve Mignani here doing the junkyard crawl in, well, my house in North Brookfield, Massachusetts. Now, the thing of it is, it's snowing in Bernardston. There's like a foot of snow on everything. There's no point going there for another few days. So in the meantime, you all might know that I'm a fanatic about altered wheelbase funny cars, like the Golden Commandos 1965 Belvedere. And the thing of it is, I build a lot of these things, put them on my Instagram, and people say, we'd like to see your models. So let's do it. This is a look at my Mopar altered wheelbase models and the story behind them. So let's get started. Now this is the Mobius 65 Golden Commandos car. This is box stock. And when I say that, I mean it comes out of this box right here. And this basically came out about 4 years ago. This is the very first altered wheelbase model ever released by a kit manufacturer that's an actual historical replica. There was a lot of stuff done in the 60s that were kind of half toy, half promo, half model. So this again came out, I guess, 3 years ago, 2019 or thereabouts. And this is the first time that an altered wheelbase car has been rendered properly. Now here it is out of the box, not very sexy, the white plastic, but again, it gives us a great opportunity to see how Mobius rendered the correct frame connectors, the extended torsion bars, even the lightweight titanium K-frame with those holes for lightning. Front suspension properly rendered, super stock leaf springs at the back, the extended frame rails here with the trunk filler. This is all correct. So Mobius did a grand slam job on releasing the world's first altered wheelbase model right here in 2019. Now here's the thing. It's now 2013. In fact, it's March of 2013. And the word is that any minute, Mobius's version of this in the Dodge Coronet is about to hit. So the Ram Chargers, all that stuff, that's waiting to happen. This is a Plymouth, not the Dodge, but again, we'll have both soon. Now the thing of it is, before Mobius came out with these model kits of altered wheelbase cars, I wanted to build them on my own. So I did, going all the way back to 1978. I actually started to cut, slice, dice, make models into altered wheelbase cars. And here are some of the more modern ones I've done. This one here is a fanciful Ram Chargers 64 Dodge Polara or 440 hardtop, not a sedan. And again, the Ram Chargers never ran a car like this, but I replicated the single headlight Hemi grille and even did the altered wheelbase work on this body. We can see that it's all sort of pretty well done under the putty underneath. The chassis is pretty well correct. And the Ram Chargers, being factory engineers, would have been held to a higher standard, including the NHRA mandate for a full-length exhaust system, which is something that would have been filled with lead, so there'd be more weight transfer in the back of the car. But the 8 3/4 from the Johan turbine car kit, and even the rear wheels, these are from Johan NASCAR models. I painted them half red, half white. The Ram Chargers used to photograph their cars, and they could tell wheel spin easier with the two-tone wheel. Now, the one thing I did on this one I took a big liberty with is the engine. This one here has the Hemi, the dual overhead valve, or overhead cam, I should say, Doomsday Hemi. We can see right here there's actually 16 intake stacks. There's basically a two-part intake manifold, and that's the A925. This is a Doomsday Hemi that Chrysler was about to launch to fight the Ford 427 camera. They said, Ford, if you're going to go single overhead cam, we'll go dual overhead cam. Well, Bill France stepped in and says, stop it. So no dual overhead cams or single overhead cams at NASCAR ever. But this is sort of a what if the Ram Chargers had gone all out. Now, the model this is based on is not originally altered wheelbase. By contrast, this is a very old and valuable Johan 64 Dodge Polara kit. Here it is, the original issue right here. Built it stock, custom, or as the super stock Ram Chargers car. Now we all know for the most part the Ram Chargers ran sedans, but they did have some Max Wedge powered hardtops, and here's the Max Wedge engine right here. And again, it's not a Hemi, but this kit right here, pretty rare piece, done in 1964. Pretty rare thing. Now this was updated in 64 as the David Pearson stock car. We can see here with the new Hemi head. So Johan actually stepped up, modified the tooling to have a Hemi head instead of the Max Wedge, and then rendered this as the David Pearson car. But you could also build it stock, or the Super Stalker, as we saw. So basically, this is the second release of the 64 Dodge with the Hemi and all the goodies and the fender wall headers, which are max wedge stuff, but they included those. I won't tell if you won't. And then Johann even went further in 1966, re-releasing the re-release as the Ram Chargers, but with funny car possibility. It's kind of funny how literally, as a tube frame here, 1966 Logie Brothers stuff, this was never something that the Ram Chargers campaigned. They did have some flip-top cars, but they were not 64 Dodges. But again, Johann says, you know what, let's fight MPC and AMTs, flip-top funny cars, and sort of make a hodgepodge. And here is, again, the third release and the final release of the 64 Dodge from Johann. This, you might remember this from hobby stores in the late 70s, early 80s. Notice how it looks like a Ram Chargers car, but recharged instead of Ram Chargers. This is Johann's way of using the 64 Dodge without paying the Ram Chargers a royalty on the word Ram Charger. But the same parts, the race Hemi stuff, even has the candy stripes in effect, super stock valve covers. And again, here it is, recharged. But again, let's remember that the 64 Dodge came out initially as a Ram Chargers model. So again, this is altered wheelbase. I made this up to sort of give the effect of what if the Ram Chargers had a dual overhead cam Hemi powered match racer in 64. It might have looked like this. Moving over into Plymouth land, Richard Petty, of course, was a drag racer for Plymouth in 65 when they boycotted NASCAR. And this is my take on a what if Richard Petty 64 altered wheelbase Plymouth Belvedere. And this one has a more conventional engine. This one's just a regular old 426 Hemi with Hilborn fuel injection. And I always make mine with steering front wheels, easily done if you just do some drilling and stuff. But again, we have the titanium K-frame at the front, or stainless steel, I should say, with the drilled holes, single exhaust. Now this one here, Richard Petty 4-speed jockey. So this one has a Dana 60 in the back. And I sort of made this one out kind of like a what if. And this one also is based on a very rare model kit, which came out from Johann once in 1964. Here's the original. And this one, of course, has the Golden Commandos drag version, the stock version, the custom version, similar to the Dodge Coronet or Polara model, but again, the max wedge in effect right there. And we see all the pieces on the side. This came out in 64. And just like the Dodge kit, Johann did a re-release as the Petty car with the flip-top funny car in 1966 or 7. So again, nothing that the Golden Commandos ever ran, but again, we can see here the similar details on this one as with the Dodge. And this kit right here, incredibly rare. I paid, well, $150.91 on eBay for this one, and I'll pay that happily. These are very hard to find, the flat box Johanns. Now, this kit was finally re-released in the early 80s once again as the Richard Petty car, decontented, no stock parts, no custom parts, no funny car parts, strictly built as the Richard Petty car. It still had the single 4-barrel Hemi. And whenever you see a Johann kit with a barcode, you know this is from the last gasp days of Johann in the 1980s. Now this kit right here, fairly uncommon, but again, the same shell, and you could make a funny car out of this thing just as well as you could an original flat box, same piece. Going a little further, I made this little Plymouth Barracuda, altered wheelbase, sort of a tribute to the Brand X 273 car. And I have fun with them. I stretched the rear wheel opening, which is something you'd see on a lot of crude funny cars back in the day. I even used the Little Red Wagon's front axle, which has steering capability. And for a little while, the A100 front axle was used in Hemi A-body Super Stalkers. The chassis is shortened, the 8 3/4 in the back, parachute attached to the rear axle, so when you come to the end of the track, you just pop the chute, let the 10-inch drums and the chute do their job. There's no front brakes on these things, the American torque thrust, and of course, an injected Hemi must be under the hood of this one. Now this is a 65 Barracuda, so which is to say that this kit is no longer being made, so you have to sacrifice an original issue, AMT. This is 1965 Barracuda model. This was only released one time. The 66 took over with a whole different nose, but this kit right here, pretty uncommon. You can find them. And I think I bought a glue bomb, stripped the paint, and then used that as the basis for my Brand X. Getting back into the world of what if drag cars, this is the Chrysler turbine car. Now this one here is based on the old Johann kit, and on this one here, I went full out with the chassis, and again, I used the Mobius chassis in some cases, the front clip, but with the Johann turbine car rear suspension, Johann turbine car 8 3/4, a beautiful rendering of it, super stock leaf springs. Again, the Mobius lightweight K-frame, steering front suspension parts, easily done with Revell 68 Charger bits. But under the hood of this one, no turbine engine. That would have been a loser on the track. Instead, again, A925 dual overhead cam engineering division. I actually had a guy make these decals for me. It cost me about $100, but it was well worth doing. Camera killer. What does that mean? Well, this one has, again, the A925 dual overhead cam. Now this one has the alternate intake with the stacks in and out. You can see right there, there's a low speed and a high speed intake track. And there's actually a cam drive, that belt on the front of that thing. So this is definitely a what if based on the Johan turbine car, which is a hell of a model because it has opening doors, an opening trunk, and we can actually see inside the trunk the super stock battery that I put in there. And basically, you know, I love making these things as if they're real. And I built actually 3 actual altered wheelbase cars in real life. The Wilshire Shaker Nova, and of course the Rampage Dodge Dart and the Funny Fairmont, but I'll prefer these any day. Spending $1,000 on a full-size car is easy to do. These things, $100 is more like it, so it's easy to do. But getting back to the Johan turbine car, this is the original issue kit, which came out in 1965, I believe. A very nice kit. This one's built as it would have been with the doors opening and the turbine engine under the front. And this has been available for many years in re-release. It's certainly out of production now, but back in the day you could find these things pretty easily. And this is the promotional version of it, similar but not the same. This is something that was sold at the New York at the World's Fair. These are different. They don't have an opening hood, no opening doors, no engine. This is all one-piece chassis underneath. So it's similar to the Johan model, but decontented in many, many, many ways. And these even came in a unique box, this little tiny thing here, a promotional type box right here with the turbine car packaging. And again, this is something that was given out at the New York World's Fair in 1964, and I think probably also at dealerships around. Now, if you're going to buy the model kit, the original issue came out looking like this, and here it is. And then for whatever reasons, I don't know why, Johan re-released it in blue, the box. The kit is the same inside, everything's the same, even the sides, but maybe marketing analysis said, hey, this bronze color ain't catching the eyeball. Let's do it up in two-tone blue. Who knows? But we can see that turbine engine at the top right corner. And again, there's a torque flight behind it, but that turbine engine would not have been something that would have been competitive in match racing in the 60s. So that's why I put a Hemi in my little fictitious match race version thereof. And we get into Plymouth Roadrunners. We all know and love Sox and Martin. We know that by 68, 69, they were not running altered wheelbase cars. That was done after 1965, but 66. This is my little take on a what-if 69 Sox and Martin altered wheelbase Roadrunner, complete with a Mobius or Revell chassis, Revell 68 Dodge Charger, and you can actually make the front tire steer on this if you want. 4-speed, of course, Mr. 4-speed Ronnie Sox, and Dana 60 rear axle in the back. And again, this one, of course, has an injected Hemi. Let's get that out of there if I can. And what I like to do is take the injector stacks from the Mobius kits, which are brilliant, and use those. This would be the place where we do the B-roll of the roundy round thing. And there's that Hemi right there. And I like to give as much detail as I can with plug wires and coloring on the Hilborn stacks. They're usually tubing aluminum. The bell mounts are also aluminum, so they're not chrome. The manifold itself is usually magnesium, which is dull, and so I try to make as much detail into these as I can. And of course, this is based on the original issue. This is the Johan 69 Roadrunner right here, the original box art, and it has a petty build if you want to go that way. There was also a custom version. This is the Probe, which is a Plymouth show car they actually gave away in Carcraft magazine after a car show. This is the original issue, but this has been re-released, and if you're more familiar with 1970s, early 80s, this is the second release of the Johan Roadrunner, and similar to the original, but not the same. You can see that the Roadrunner graphic on the side of that's been changed. And not sure why they would have done such things, but anyway, the original issue, this thing right here today is about $300. This is about $100. Similar but different. These have different tires, different seats, and you know, it's devils in the details. And then we get into stuff like this. You know, another what if. This is a 68 8 Dodge Dart Ram Chargers altered wheelbase funny car. Now we of course know that Ram Chargers did have a Dodge Dart funny car like this, but it was a tube frame critter. This still has the unit body, 8 3/4 with the anchor to the parachute right here, super stock springs, torque flight. The Ram Chargers are big on torque flight, steering front ends, Halibrands, which were used on the Ram Chargers final Dart funny cars, and always an injected Hemi. Once again, there we go with the injected Hemi engine. And the graphics on this, the stripes, I paint these on. I use Tamiya with tape, and that's actually paint. The sides, yeah, these are decals from the Lindbergh or other Ram Chargers funny cars. Some of these are aftermarket, but the graphics are something I cannot paint on. But I can do the stripes without too much trouble using Tamiya paints. And I did have a false start on this one. I got so mad. You can see here's the, oh, that's the rotor. But yeah, on this one here, you know, I started out and then, oops, I got mad and crunched it. But again, this model here is not particularly valuable. It's a Revell 68, 69 Dodge Dart, which is easily purchased for about 20 bucks. But you can see some of the surgery here where the altered wheelbase work came undone when I got mad at it. And basically, sometimes you have to start over when you have a problem. And you know, if you like pink models, I'm not really big on them, but a guy named Al Graber had a series of drag cars called Tickle Me Pink. This is a replica of his Charger. Now, his car was a tube frame car, but I like to kind of keep him door slammery as a what if. And again, with the Revell 1968 Charger or GTX chassis with the steering front end easily rendered. Headers out of the Revell Superstock Hemi cars. Dana, of course. Whenever you have a 4-speed, there's going to be a Dana. And this one here began life as the original issue MPC 66 Charger kit, and of course a Johan Hemi with the Hilborns out of the Mobius altered wheelbase Plymouth. But again, that kit right there, here's the original release right here, 1966 Dodge Charger Fastback. And then for the very next year, 67, they brought it out. Minimal changes, but these kits are molded in white and they're easily worked with. These have been re-released even recently, molded in black and other colors. So the body shell on these things is not that hard to find. And Revell even makes a 67 Charger, Revell again. It's not quite as crisp or clean as the MPC. This is the one I like the best. But again, with the wheels moved forward, it just gives that fastback a really cool vibe all the way around. And like all of Al Graber's cars, yeah, pink stacks, the velocity openings on those things, why not? You know, Al Graber. And these are reproduction decals right here from the aftermarket. They work pretty good. No problem done with that. And then finally, let's have a look at this one here, one of my favorites. This is a replica, what if, of Bill Shirey's The Professor 65 Plymouth altered wheelbase two-door sedan. Now here's the thing. Like all of my models, I got to say, this one, of course, has a Hilborn injected Hemi. Got to have that. And again, the Mobius chassis, which is beautiful right like it is. 8 3/4 out of the Johan turbine car. Steering front end, once again, all this stuff out of the Revell Charger kit. You can adapt it very easily. But the paint on this one was kind of a challenge. These are painted. These stripes are actually on there. It's Tamiya French blue. The decals, yeah, aftermarket stuff from the internet. But again, the problem with this model initially was the fact that the altered wheelbase Plymouth from Mobius is a hardtop. See that roof right there? Well, if you want to build a sedan, what do? The problem is the Mobius 65 sedan is a standard wheelbase car. It's not altered wheelbase. What do? Well, let's go to my computer and I'll show you. To convert from a sedan to a hardtop roof or vice versa might seem troubling. In fact, again, here's the issue. The altered wheelbase body is a hardtop with that slender B-pillar. The sedan is the body you want. In fact, in the real world, a good solid 6-cylinder car like this is 10 grand, whereas these are much less, to be honest. Everybody wants these things. But, so what do? Do you change roofs or do you change body shells? What do? Well, if you want to make this hardtop into a sedan, this is what I did. I basically removed the wheel openings from the altered wheelbase car and then transferred them onto the sedan. In fact, it was much easier than trying to swap the roof. The beauty is with the Mobius kits, the side silhouette, they're all 65 Plymouth, so they should be the same, and they are. Mobius kit makers, the designers, the tool makers made sure that these are very, very modular, so it was actually a very simple matter to swap the body parts. You can see right here, here is after putting the sacrificial parts in here. And then this is basically what's happening right here. Here's the original front wheel opening with the wheel back. Here's the altered wheelbase one. Cut the same size hole at the front, same with the back. The stalker, wheels up forward, altered wheelbase, etc. You just cut the same hole, put it in there, and basically you have yourself an altered wheelbase conversion with the sedan body, not the hardtop. And again, a lot of the home-built altered wheelbase Mopars were sedans because they were based on the standard wheelbase A990 Super Stalker, not the 11 hardtops that you had to be made of gold to get from Chrysler. Now, once you've done that work, yep, that is Tamiya putty right there. It goes on crude, put it on thick, no problem. And you work like a sculptor, like a surgeon, and you basically, this is mock-ups of the various parts. That's the clutch flight transmission right there. That's an automatic out of the turbine car from Johan. And that is the Hemi 4-speed bell housing. And yeah, clutch flights were a thing for a while. Put the car in first gear, put your foot down on the clutch, wind it to 7, dump the clutch, and then push your buttons for second and drive on the way down the track. Clutch flights, they absolutely work. But anyway, going forward, the bodywork here goes on thick. You let it dry for a day or two, and then you begin sanding, and the sanding takes place, you know, like a surgeon. You just sort of work your way down. Little sanding sticks like these things here go a long way. And you don't want to get down, don't dig a hole, just be a good body man like you would on a real car, not a big deal, and just more process pictures. And then finally, you're ready for primer. And we can see right here, the primer is on, and the car is kind of converted. It's an altered wheelbase sedan. And underneath that gray primer right there is this right here. So that's how you can take an altered wheelbase hardtop and turn it into a sedan. Don't change roofs, change wheel openings. And then after that's done, all this stuff underneath goes right under the body if you've done your math right. Kind of cool. Well, that's it for this version or edition of the Junkyard Crawl. It's snowing, so we're kind of just catching up a little bit. A lot of folks have said, hey, Steve, show us your model cars, your altered wheelbase funny cars. So we will be back to the junkyard another day or two, maybe 3, when the snow melts and you can actually see the cars at Burn Sonata Reckon. We'll go back. But in the meantime, we'll come back tomorrow with my Ford altered wheelbase funny cars. If you love Ford Cammers and taking out Hemi cars, you want to see tomorrow's video, be sure to subscribe to the Steve Maggs YouTube channel, share this video, like this video, and hit the bell so that you're aware when tomorrow's video comes out, which is right in the morning.